This is the number one thing, student behavior and lack of accountability, that just drives teachers out of the classroom. And it's worth talking about for sure, because we love this profession so much, but it has to be like some give and take, and teachers can only take but so much. Hey teammates, and welcome back to Teaching with Tenia. It absolutely feels so good to be talking back to a camera again, because I feel like this is my outlet and we get to connect and relate to each other on a whole different level. In my sit down videos, I've been receiving a lot of good feedback on my teaching diaries, so I'm glad you guys are enjoying those, but I still want to keep it like teacher lifestyle content for you guys, because at the end of the day, we are more than just teachers. So thank you guys so much for watching and supporting me. Let's get right into the video. Okay, so I know that we all have that one student in our classroom that's just that student, and that student can mean a bunch of different things, but usually the ones that we like to label as bad, which I don't like that title, but also causing disruptive, things like that. And we know who they are, and unfortunately they know who they are as well, if you're constantly having to talk to one student at a time. And this video was put on my heart because I see a lot of teachers, and also myself, dealing with a lot of behaviors that, to be honest, we're not equipped to handle in the classroom. When I mean equipped, like there's only like so much tools we have in our toolbox, and we are in a partnership with home, families, things like that. And so my goal is to bridge that gap. Unfortunately, of course, there is no normal student. I don't want to paint that picture out there, but you guys know what I'm talking about. There is students that come and follow directions, things like that, the first time. Of course, we don't teach robots, so they have different personalities, different home life, home backgrounds, home circumstances, things like that. So I have found these ways to be beneficial, but I don't want to say that I'm perfect at this, because at the end of the day, like, I'm still learning my students. Like, we're only in the second quarter, realizing what works best for them, their tendencies, what may be triggers for them, or other experiences that may come up in the classroom. It's like an ongoing process, but I do believe that once we reach that student's heart, like I teach for the heart, yes, you can teach them how to read, how to write all day long, but if they're not good people, if they're not changing the world and the change makers that I want them to be, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, like living out their purpose, whatever that may be, whether it's college, whatever, in trade school, doing what makes them happy, then I don't know if I've done my job well. We are more than just teachers, and unfortunately, like, sometimes you do have to be a counselor, a protector, a parent. At the end of the day, like, I have no kids, but I feel like, especially this one of my students is literally my daughter. Like, I have to watch out for her, protect her, and get her anything that she needs in the school setting, of course, as much as I can. But anyway, I'm getting off topic, just talking about her. But I just want to let you guys know that even today was a very rough day. And I try to keep it positive on my channel, but sometimes we just have student behaviors that take the teaching, the life, the fun out of it. And I just want to talk to you, teacher to teacher, from my heart to yours, just giving some strategies that have helped me and that are continuing to help me as I get through this challenging year. If you have a student in your class that is constantly disruptive, constantly asking for things, or just doing everything except for their work and listening to the lesson, then there is something going on. And I like to get to the root cause, because behaviors are just a manifestation, or like output of what's going on internally and in our hearts and things like that. Like, if I feel that I'm not loved and I want attention, like, I'm going to do anything and everything to seek it, whether I'm getting on the teacher's nerves or not, whether I'm disrupting other students from learning or not. I'm just being real with you guys. So I try to place myself in my students' shoes, especially if they have other circumstances going on. So number one, hear them out. I feel like as a student, even when I was a child, like, there was not enough spaces for me to feel like I was being heard and understood. I had this one student in particular, I'm not going to name any names, but he wasn't in my class for the first month for whatever reason of school, and he asked a lot of questions. And I'm like, this dude is screaming, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. And that came out in other behaviors as well, but I just had to sit down. Like, right now, I cannot listen to everything you're saying, and he has a story for everything that we're learning, and I love that he's engaged, but it's just a time and a place for it, and I don't want to shut his curiosity, his love for people, and his interaction and extrovertedness like down. So what I've learned to do is, okay, these are the times you can talk to me, these are the times you can't talk to me. Like right before lunch, I love to hear your drawn out story, what you did over the weekend, all the other stuff. But when I ask you for one thing you did over the weekend, like I can't have 10 different stories. And if I'm teaching a lesson, like you cannot just input a story about something else randomly over in time. Like I love that you're participating and things like that, but it's just a time and a place. And right now we're trying to learn that as third graders, regulating our emotions and figuring out when's the best time to do things. So a lot of times I realize that student is looking for a safe space to be listened to. As humans, we all have the desire to be heard, listened to, and felt like valued. And so our students want that as well. Even though they're students, they're what I like to call little humans that are trying to figure out the world as well. So if you could be a listening ear, I know you cannot do this all the time, but find a space, a place, like during research time when I'm not grading papers or doing everything else a teacher has to do, just to be able to listen to him like, wow, that is so cool. Like even I find myself saying, wow, that's amazing, awesome, because they want someone to validate them. And so to be honest, I was not the best at this, and I had to fake it until I make it, until I really became interested in what they had to say. And yes, I'm interested in their lives and what they have going on. Of course, I have to stick to the academic side. We cannot fix everything for every student. So, needless to say, being able to hear them out, make sure they have a safe space to hear their feelings, state their feelings, their opinions, I feel like will grow capable, confident leaders in the future. Second thing you may want to try when you're dealing with that student is going ahead and getting them out of the room. Whether it's running a fake pass, I know you have a buddy teacher in your class or in your school setting, go ahead and communicate with them. Let them know, hey, if I have this really important task that I want this person to do, only this person can do it. Or if you could tell like they're getting really antsy and they're just picking fights or disrupting the whole class, hey, so-and-so, I need you to run this pass. It's really important. Make sure they get it. It may be all the way across the school, all the way across the cafeteria, things like that. Whatever they need to go ahead and realize to separate them from that setting will be beneficial, because I can speak of another example. I have stories for all these, to be honest. But in another example, I had one student, it was like, we were learning, it was just so interested in him. Like he could not get it together. Like the words were just vomiting. Every word that I said, he had something to say after. I was like, wow, I know you're really excited about this. But in my head, you could just tell that it was disrupting the learning environment. And I don't want to crush that dream as well. So I was like, hey, dude, I need you to go take this pass. It's really important. And that student was able, like sometimes they just need the threshold, getting outside the room to calm their nerves, getting a little bit of energy out in their little walk to the class, taking them to go. Just letting them know like, hey, it's okay, like relax, get your thoughts together, do one thing, go get a drink of water, do something to get out of this class setting so that we could just do like a reset. And I have found that very beneficial as well, because just getting that student out of the classroom has been, like sometimes you just need like a woo-saw, like, okay, reset, boom, this is how I'm gonna deal or handle this situation when that student gets back, or now I can finally get my groups together so that he could just come back and go to his small group, things like that. Also another thing, when students get like really antsy, I know I don't like to throw diagnoses around like ADHD, things like that, but unfortunately our education system has found it okay to have students sit in a seat for 8 hours a day and think that that's supposed to be okay for little learners. It's not the best way, and unfortunately I have taken it upon myself in the classroom as much as possible to get my students moving around in groups, talking and learning more hands-on throughout the day. Like my class moves very fast. There's like always within 10, 15, 20 minute increments we are switching to the next thing because their attention spans are oh but so short. So I have learned that friends that get antsy, sometimes it may be like anxiety, or they're really nervous about something, or they bite their nails all the time. They're constantly getting up and down, up and down. Maybe even little fidgets can help that student that literally just cannot sit still or has a lot to say and has a lot of verbal expressions, verbal expressions that can be a disruption. At the end of the day, like students learn best in an environment that's like more focused and things like that. So I don't want to hinder that student or knock their student down for the way they are. Sometimes they literally just can't help it. They need to move around, and I totally understand that. So giving them appropriate ways to do so would be great. First thing you need to do when handling that student is going ahead and extending grace. Because at the end of the day, they may not know what they're doing. And I've had to realize this myself. Like, all of my students, they're on different journeys. They're at different developmental levels that they don't have the skills or the coping mechanisms to go ahead and express themselves in a way that is appropriate or a way that is productive. So being able to say, hey, instead of doing this, you could do this. And also, don't take it personal, especially when they're cussing you out, calling you all the names in the book. At the end of the day, they don't know how else to cope, but you can tell that they're really upset. So maybe give them like 5-10 minute. I love setting timers as well. That's another tool. Go ahead, and I have a cozy corner. If you have a calm down corner, things like that, those are like traditional things that you can be able to do. Have a kinetic sand, or rice to calm students down. I found that in a research article. But doing activity or sensory things that gives them mind off of whatever is happening at hand. Don't take it personal, because at the end of the day, like, we all have our own battles that we're fighting and things that we have to overcome. So we cannot control what happens in our students' lives, what they see, especially with the internet. Like, a lot of students are desensitized to certain things. So other things that may be deemed as appropriate may be really not appropriate for school, or just learning how to differentiate play versus serious time. So if you rub a student the wrong way or you trigger them, like, flying off the handles may look different for everyone. Or when a student explodes, they explode, and sometimes you're just the brunt of it because they don't know who else to direct it to. And as an authority figure, as a teacher in your classroom, like, you are the star in your classroom. And I do believe, I'm not saying go ahead and let students do whatever they want. I am a firm believer that's, make sure you extend grace and don't take it personal. At the end of the day, well, is at work, is at work. And when you go home, like, you just have to know who you are as a person, and don't take your insecurities or whatever you have going on in your personal life, don't take that out on the kids, because they're already trying to figure out their own lives as well. Another thing that I have found beneficial is giving students choice. I feel like a lot of times we just tell students what to do, or they're always being told, do this, do this, do this, you don't do this, don't do this. But what can they do? And I feel like as adults, we have autonomy, and my biggest thing in my classroom is choice. Are you making good choices? You have a choice to make in life, and if you're being mean to someone, like, at the end of the day, that's not going to be tolerated in my class, like bullying, stuff like that. And that word could be thrown around all the time. But students have choices to make. And I want to encourage them to make the right choice and get them thinking about the autonomies and the choices that they do have, whether it's in academic schoolwork, or if it's, hey, do you want to eat lunch in my class, or where do you want to eat lunch? What do you think is the best, even down to where's the best place you think you should sit at the carpet? Hey, you know you like to talk to this friend, but it's learning time, so should I sit here or should I sit here? Let me think about it. Things like that, because if you're not talking to these little learners, basically little adults, well, I don't want to adultify them, but they're basically just trying to figure out. Students have not been given the opportunity to figure out, hey, I can make decisions for myself. Like, at the end of the day, whatever happens to me, whatever situation, circumstance that I'm in, I have the choice to dust myself off, or even to do better than I've seen people, my family and my friends do. I have the choice to do better. I have the autonomy and the will and the want to do better. So I stress choices all the time, and I just pray and hope that these little seeds that I'm planting, it may not see itself now, but older, like, am I making a good choice? Because I even saw one student, I was walking in line. I like to walk in the middle of my line, not at the beginning or end, because, you know, haywire can happen at any time. So I was walking in the middle of my line, and a student thought my back was turned, and I looked around, and he's like doing whatever, and it's like, was that a good choice? Like, I didn't even have to say it at this point in the school year. I just looked at him. He was like, not a good choice. I was like, yeah, no. So I'm glad they're able to identify, some students are able to identify. It may take students longer, but at the end of the day, you're just gonna keep repeating myself, and hopefully it sticks in their head. But I do know that students that, how should I say? I do know that all these little seeds to help them regulate their emotions and to do better in school, it will pay off in some form or fashion later on. At least, number 5 is say what you mean and mean what you say. Now, I've had to become a whole different Tenia, because the words I was saying, I was like going over students' head. I'm like, I'm asking you to do this, but you're doing this. I need you to follow directions and things like that. And so when I had to become stern, more stern than I already am, it was like a loving stern, of course, but I do believe that students thrive on structure, knowing what the expectations are in your class, where to find things, organization, whatever. Like if I say I'm giving you 3 strikes and I'm taking a chip, I may not really want to take that chip, but I have to take that chip because I said I was going to. And backing your own self up in your classroom is key. Because if you say, oh, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, and then it never happens, I'm going to call home, and you never call home, that one day you call home and was like, oh, you're like the boy who cried wolf. So say what you mean and mean what you say. I found and learned the tough way that students actually respect you more when you say you're going to do something. And also be fair, because students can sniff a fraud or a fake from a mile away. Like, oh, you let this person do this and not this person do this. So try to be fair as best as you can across the board. And when students ask you questions like, how come we're doing this today, or why can't we doing this today, like, answer their questions, because they are curious, trying to figuring out what to do. And I've mentioned this in another video before, but a lot of times stuff just happens to them. Like, they have no choice. And I mentioned this earlier. So explain to them what's happening or why it's happening. Like, hey, these friends have 8 chips because they were doing this and this, following directions and what they were supposed to do. This is a way you can do that as well. And also giving them another choice, because if you're used to cussing somebody out, I keep going to that example, my bad, I've had a lot of that in my classroom, but if you're like doing the same thing to a person every day, maybe they're just used to that. Maybe they're in the habit, or they have succumbed or label themselves as, I'm the bad student, so I'm going to continue to be bad. No, you're not a bad student. You're not a bad child. You're just making bad choices. You're not a bad student. You're just making bad choices. And trying to differentiate the difference between, you're a bad kid, you do this, this, and this, as opposed to, look at the qualities that you do have. Look at the qualities you are good at. You know what? I'm so glad you're in my classroom today. Can we choose to have a better day? Last but not least, this is like a bonus. I don't want this video to be too long for you guys, but I have went ahead and established a good day plan. I know I didn't think I would have to do this in 3rd grade, but the behaviors this year are so severe in my classroom. Like, to be honest, had a mental breakdown today because I'm trying to teach, but the behaviors are just so, behaviors and personalities are just so big that I cannot fight every battle. And I just know that in order for me to get my students on grade level and where they need to be, we have to literally figure out, plan, establish, what does a good day look like for our classroom? Okay, if we're following direction, if we come in quietly, doing what we're supposed to do, starting off on the right foot, being nice to each other, saying kind words, like literally walking through that and doing a whole nother reset. I will do a reset every 2 weeks if I have to make sure my students are learning to the best of their ability. And at the end of the day, in education, our goal is to keep everybody safe and make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to do so that they can be the best they could be in academics, behavior-wise, as a whole person later on. I hope you guys understand my heart and where I'm coming from this. I could talk about this all day long, but I'm going to leave it there. Comment down below what are some ways you like to handle students that need more attention than typical. Comment that down below, and let me know what you guys think on this topic, because I feel like this is the #1 thing, student behavior and lack of accountability, that just drives teachers out of the classroom. And it's worth talking about for sure, because we love this profession so much, but it has to be like some give and take, and teachers can only take but so much. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to create a great day, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.